Week 14 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, Mac Jones of the New England Patriots. So Mac Jones this season, he's been banged up a little bit. He hasn't played great football, but this week I like the matchup at the Arizona Cardinals. I give up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. So the last few games here, he's only had one game that stuck out, obviously. In Week 12, Week 11 versus the Jets, 246 pass yards in that one. Week 12 in Minnesota on Thanksgiving night, 382 passing and 2 touchdowns. In Week 13 versus Buffalo, 195 pass yards and a touchdown. So this week, like I said, good matchup at Arizona. Second most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. And if you're in a pinch with a Lamar Jackson injury or a deeper league or a couple quarterbacks on bye, with the 6 teams on bye this week here, Mac Jones in deeper leagues I think is a decent option. And a guy available right now in 84% of fantasy leagues, and that guy's Tyler Huntley of the Baltimore Ravens. I'm pretty big on Tyler Huntley, and if you check out my quarterback rankings this week, I actually got him in number 11 this week in the rankings. So Huntley last season, he filled in for Lamar Jackson, and he actually played some pretty decent football with 2 ball games over 30 fantasy points. So last year, he had 1,081 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 294 rush yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then last week coming in for Lamar, 187 pass yards versus the Denver Broncos, an interception, 41 rushing, and a rushing touchdown to win the ball game with under a minute left. So right now he's got a good matchup at division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season, and Huntley, with his running ability, easily could get anywhere from 6 to 10 fantasy points just on the ground alone. So this week here with a good matchup and available, surprisingly to me, in tons of fantasy leagues at 76%. He's definitely a quarterback sleeper this week. And the third and final quarterback I have as a sleeper this week's Kenny Pickett, staying in the ball game here of the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously versus the Ravens this week here in Week 14. And Pickett, I know the games haven't been all that great for him, but he's getting better as the weeks go on. And the Steelers team actually has won 3 out of 4 ball games as well. Week 11 versus Cincinnati, 265 pass yards, touchdown in that 114 rushing. Week 12 at the Colts, 174 pass yards, 32 rushing in a 2-point conversion. And Week 13 at Atlanta, 197 pass yards, a touchdown, and 14 rushing. So the thing here with Pickett is he's getting anywhere from 15 to 18 fantasy points. But if he could get that 2 touchdowns per game here, he's definitely a guy that could get that 20-plus fantasy point mark. And this week, in a ball game versus division rival, the Ravens, maybe he could do it, is Kenny Pickett. So right now, he's available in 86% of fantasy leagues, and he's a quarterback I have as a sleeper this week. So that's a few quarterbacks I have as sleepers for Week 14 of the fantasy football season.